I talked about and asked the chance, is Billy Donovan's seat hot for the Chicago Bulls? Well, according to Greg Swartz, as early as today, the Bulls could be expected to part ways with Billy Donovan by season's end. We're going to talk about it all and more, but first, we got to play that intro.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. This is a breaking news episode. So as per Greg Swartz, we have this. I'm going to read this directly. I usually don't like to bring up my phone, but I'm going to read this one directly. Donovan in Chicago won't last long. Whether through firing or a mutual parting of ways, the Bulls are expected to look for a younger coach who specializes in player development, while Donovan is expected to explore opportunities in an organization focused on winning now. That's per Greg Swartz. That is a recent report. This just came out, because I'll be breaking news about an hour ago. So that is a pretty big statement when it comes down to it. And I both believe it and I don't. I want to be clear here. Take this report with a huge grain of salt. Do not take this as being something that is 100% fact. But let's look at the situation as a whole, right? Let's just look at it and break it down. The Chicago Bulls hired two veteran assistant coaches that have both been heads of player development, that have been assistants for decades, that have been a part of organizations that have won titles, that have developed MVPs. They've hired two assistant coaches that have done that, right? If you do plan on going younger and hiring a young developmental coach, having two veteran assistants could make a lot of sense there. Now, one could also say, and I'm going to fight against my own point here, is that if the Bulls were planning to move on from Billy Donovan, why wait to hire new assistants now, right? That is a question, because those assistants also bring things that Billy Donovan lacks in. But we said when those assistants were hired that they felt like AK moves more than Billy Donovan moves. And while AK and Eversley have very much respected what Billy Donovan has brought to this team as far as being a collaborator in their decisions, with the organization clearly going a different path, maybe they do want to bring in a new coach. And again, something that also kind of solidifies this point is the Bulls were not able to move on from Zach LaVine, not able to move on from Nikola Vucevic. And the Bulls very well could have not wanted to bring in a new young head coach in to deal with that mess until it's settled. And so the Bulls could very well look at the 2024-25 season as an opportunity to get off of Zach LaVine, and that way a new head coach is not coming in dealing with the kind of maybe the locker room that it could be, the air in that locker room that it could be, with the tension with Zach LaVine still being there. One could also say as well, though, that if the Bulls do hire a new, younger head coach, does that change Zach LaVine's desire to leave the Chicago Bulls, right? That's also a question that could be there as well. So look out for all those things. Like you guys know, I like to talk about things from all aspects because I do believe there could be a little bit of grain of truth. Also take things with a grain of salt that it could not actually be correct. But this is the first time that we've heard anything from a reputable source that the Bulls could be looking to move on from Billy Donovan to continue the development and the younger route that this roster is going as well. So look out from that. Again, anybody who's just joining in, I'll read the quote again. This one comes from Greg Swartz saying, Donovan in Chicago won't last long. Whether the firing is whether through a firing or mutual parting of ways, the Bulls are expected to look for a younger coach who specializes in player development, while Donovan is expected to explore opportunities in an organization focused on winning now. So that comes from Greg Swartz. So want to be clear there, this is not me speculating, but let's go ahead and get into your comments. Let's see how you guys are feeling about it. Was definitely not expecting this day. You or me either, brother. Like, I'm not even going front of you. I was not expecting it at all either. Hold on, I got to change the color. I hate one of the things I hate about sharing this restream with the team is that everything gets messed around. So now I got to change the color. There you go. I just changed it to the background. I don't have the actual Chicago Bulls red off the top of my head, the hex code for it, but I had to change that. That was not sitting well with me. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely did not expect to hear this today. Jay Capone says, say it ain't so, gang. Damn, Bulls. I mean, we'll see. Please, him and Vooch gotta go. I mean, we'll see what happens there. We'll see. Oh snap! This is huge. Blindsided. Well, they're not. So it's not a firing, and it's not really blindsiding because if the Bulls have even communicated with Billy Donovan and basically said, "Hey, Billy, we're going in a different route. We want to see," because it could be a fluid thing, right? Let's say that the Bulls do come into this season. Let's say Kobe, Io, Patrick Williams all take another leap. Josh Giddey is what it is, and that team looks like it's closer to being back in the team that's trying to compete. They could very well say, all right, Billy, listen, we thought we were going to go younger, but these guys are ready. We're going to stick with you as head coach. They could very well do that as well, but it's maintaining that flexibility. Why is Vooch still here? Because Vooch is still a top 15 center in this league, and they'll move him. Though. I believe Vooch will be moved by the deadline. Thank the Lord. Get gum chewing Billy out of here. We'll see. Does that mean Zach will stay? I don't think so, JK. I could be wrong on that. I want to be clear that, but I don't think so. I don't think that means he stays. This team makes my head spin. I mean, this isn't the most. It's shocking to hear this now, but if they were to do that, it wouldn't really be surprising to me. With all the coaching moves, are we surprised? I mean, again, it hasn't happened yet, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm tired of him chewing gum, folding his arms while we get blown out. I mean, what do you want him to do? Go out there and punch somebody? You want to see him punch somebody? Ain't no effing way, boy. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. It's about time. See red. I mean, listen, it's not happening yet. Let's be clear here. It's not happening yet. It's not happening yet. We got. It's not going to happen to the end of the season at the earliest. So just keep a lookout for that. Keep a lookout for that. Let me change the title because I see people are taking this as meaning like he's gone today, and that's not what it's to say. That's not what it is to say. Mishap on my part. I'm going to update the title just so people can kind of calm down a little bit, man. Oh snap! Time to clean house. Like you getting raided by the cops, fam. Well, again, he's not gone yet. This is by the end of the season. End of the season. Thank God my prayers could finally be answered. Y'all know how much I hate Billy Donovan. I'm just glad that you finally admit that you hate this man. Because for the longest, Winton would say, I don't hate him. I don't even know him. But fuck his mama. No, I mean, he never said that. That's something I would say, not Winton would say. But still, Winton used to go in, man. Wouldn't be going in on Billy Donovan. But, you know, it is what it is. I can't wait to see what Winton does when they still make the same mistakes. And he can't say, well, it's because of Billy Donovan. That's just shout out to my boy Winton. I think he was subscriber like number 2. I came here to chew gum and watch players develop, and Billy chewed all the gum already. That's funny. That's funny. Why didn't they do this earlier so they went and highly sought after assistant? Well, they're not firing him right now. So this is not to say that he's removed now. It's by season's end they're expected to. So we'll see what happens with that one. Is Greg Swartz reliable? Semi. Much like with everybody else, he hits on some things he didn't. He was one of the first people to report that DeMar DeRozan was going to the Kings. So he was one of the first people to report that. I also think back in the day, he also reported the Jabari Parker thing, but that's a story for a different day. So Billy's misuse of Drummond really pissed me off. He would probably still be here. Drummond would play well with the young crew. No, Andre Drummond's going after chasing titles. I don't think he would have stayed here with where this team is. He went after a team with an MVP caliber player that he has a way better chance of winning a title. I think at this point they're focused on winning titles. So I think Billy trying to get the office role or making Zach happy getting rid of Billy. I mean, I don't think neither is necessarily true, not by this report, but we'll see. We'll see. No, God forbid. No, fuck Mark Jackson. Like, no. That's why they said a young coach. Let's read the report again. Anybody who's talking about Mark Jackson, let's be here. The Bulls are expected to look for a younger coach who specializes in player development. Keyword on younger. Younger there. Not sure if you mentioned this, but do you believe we would be? But who do you believe would be the best coach to replace Billy Donovan? I said this for years, Justin. And this is years down that I've been saying this. I don't want the Bulls to go after any coach that I know. I'm just going to be front, unless it's like a big time, a fairly young coach in college that's a head coach. I want the Bulls to go out and find their Eric Spoelstra. I want the Bulls to go out and find their Ime Udoka. I want the Bulls to go out and find their Joe Mazzulla. I want the Bulls to go out and find the next great young coach that can come in and develop a system over years and develop a culture here. I don't want to chase after any more names. I don't want Mark Jackson. I don't want oh boy, he just left the Pistons. They're all fine coaches. I'm not knocking them as coaches. I want the Bulls to find somebody who's going to come in here and build a system and a culture. When you look at the Bulls, when they've had their most success, it's been with coaches that, while may have been known as assistants, but really made their name here in Chicago. Phil Jackson made his name here in Chicago. Doug Collins, I think he had some success elsewhere before he came here, but again, really is known as the Chicago Bulls coach. Tom Thibodeau, yeah, he was known as an assistant for Boston, but this was his first head coaching opportunity. I want the Bulls to find the next head coach. I don't want them to chase another name. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. If there's a coach out there eventually to make this team better, I'm all for that. And that's right. Just get the right guy. That's it. It's just get the right guy. What do you think? Because the sudden change in direction. Secondly, what do you think? Shaka Smart. Oh, I'm not against Shaka Smart, but what else? I don't think it's a sudden change in direction. I think this is, if you look at the steps, this has kind of been going that direction. Look at it this way: when the Bulls gave Billy Donovan an extension, why did they only give him 2 years? They only gave him a 2-year extension. His original contract ended at the end of last season. They only gave him 2 years. I know we've known that they gave him a secret extension for like 2 years, but they only gave him a 2-year extension. That was to see where the Bulls are going to be in those 2 years. When you look at the Bulls going younger, when you look at them hiring 2 well-seasoned assistant coaches in Dan Craig and it's a Wes Unseld Jr. That we hired as coaches. Look at those, like you those are things that when you if you're going to hire a new young coach, you want veteran assistants around him. So I think if you kind of watch the process that we've gone through and the steps, it honestly kind of makes sense if that's what they end up doing. Kind of makes sense what they end up doing. Scott, I mean, we had some success under Scott Skiles. We had some success out of Scott Skiles, man. What's your issue with Mark Jackson? You said that with the passion. How do you know Mark Jackson can't build a strong culture? It's just the fact that of the realization he's not getting another NBA job. Mark Jackson is an okay coach, but Mark Jackson, like, you got to also look at the talent that he had. I think people look at it and say, well, he developed Steph and Clay, and it's like, yeah, but they also ended up being some of the best players in NBA history. So Mark Jackson just, to me, isn't the guy that people try to make him out to be because he developed Steph and Clay. Yes, he taught them a way to work, and he taught them how to win. He taught them a system, and I give him credit for that. And Steve Kerr was able to come in and build off of that. But that's just not what I want. I want this team to find their next great coach, in my opinion. Drummond was a double-double machine. Why didn't Billy play him more? That goes to show you he has holes in his coaching ability. He doesn't draw up plays for Levine to shoot down the stretch. Well, Chris, I'll say this. That's just not a Billy Donovan thing. Every coach doesn't play Andre Drummond a lot of minutes. Go and look at Andre Drummond's, like, the last 6 years of his career. It's been something consistent that whatever team he's on doesn't play him a lot of minutes. His efficiency goes down when he plays more minutes, and that could just be on the teams that he's on. But that's just kind of where Andre Drummond is in his career. Now, I will say that aside, Billy Donovan definitely has holes in his coaching philosophy, as does every coach, right? Every coach has that. And you can also say Billy Donovan did play Drum with the max of 17 minutes. Even though he didn't play a lot of minutes on other teams, it was still kind of more so 2021. So, I mean, there's a lot to go into that, man. A lot to go into that. What's going on, fam? Glad to have you in the building, brother. Very interesting to see this, especially in mid-August. We'll see. We'll see. When I called last time, I said Billy didn't want to rebuild, and here we are. When he first came here, he said he didn't want to rebuild at all. I mean, yeah. I mean, that is why he left the OKC Thunder. So, Patrick Ewing as a head coach, I'm good on that. I wouldn't be against Penny Hardaway. Wouldn't be against Penny Hardaway. I mean, if you hear good young head coach, I don't think Sam Cassell here, Dimitri. I don't see Sam Cassell as the description of a good young head coach. I don't see that, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, like I said, just to kind of recap, if anybody, because we've had about 100 people jump on, if anybody is jumping on with this, we from Greg Swartz says, why did it go away? I hate X? Why did it refresh? Greg Swartz, Donovan in Chicago won't last long. Whether through firing or a mutual parting of ways, the Bulls are expected to look for a younger coach who specializes in player development, while Donovan is expected to explore opportunities in an organization focused on winning now. And I kind of laid it out there, right? I want to lay out both the things for and against that thought process. You just hired new assistant coaches. Maybe you want to see what Billy Donovan looks like with those guys. And as well, let's say that Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Josh Giddey, Modest Bucilis, let's say all these guys look like, hey, they could be some of those ones. And at that point, the Bulls say, hey, Billy, we're going to keep you on. We feel like we can compete for playoffs going forward. We're good. But it also adds in that flexibility. You brought in two veteran assistants. Both Wes Unseld Jr. and Dad Craig have been heads of player development. And so if you bring in a new young head coach, you have veteran assistants that have done this for decades that can support that new young head coach. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens. Yeah, maybe that's what the Bulls need. Some old school grit with Mark Jackson. Listen, Mark Jackson is not getting another NBA job. I could just tell you that right now. Mark Jackson is not getting another NBA job. It's not happening. Why this? And so I laid this out relentless. I don't think this is a change of course. I think that if you watch what the Bulls have done, this is kind of what they were maybe preparing for. If you believe, so when Billy Donovan, when they gave him an extension, it was early. He had 2 years left on his deal when they gave him an extension, but they only gave him an extension of 2 more years, which means they wanted to wait and see. If you fully believe of the course that your roster was going to go on, you would have gave him another 5-year extension. You gave him 2 years, right? Then on top of that, you've now gone a different direction with your roster. And while the Bulls have been preaching this, we're not tanking, and saying that we feel like we can compete for a playing spot, what if they don't? And what if development has to be the focus? Also, you created a whole player development department, a whole staff of 5 individuals that are focused on nothing but player development. So I think if you look in a way like the Bulls both set up, if Billy Donovan stayed here, as well as, hey, if we do need to go a different direction, we now have this structure in place of player development. And really, when you look at it from last offseason to this offseason, more than the Josh Giddey trades, more than the drafting of Modest Bucilis, the Bulls have set themselves up to be better at developing players. You got Peter Patton, who was one of the best and most heralded shooting coaches in the world. You got him in here to head your player development department. You then filled out that staff all of last year. That staff worked with Ayo. They worked with Kobe. Then this offseason, you got 2 assistant coaches that have both also been heads of player development. So I don't think that this is a change of course. I think that this is more a you try to live in 2 worlds, and now you're picking one route, if you are to do this, of going a single course. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. What about Mo Cheeks as a young come on, y'all just saying stuff at this point in time. Why y'all want to stress me out today? Why y'all want to stress me out today? Do you trust this front office again after overvaluing this roster and going younger with a major emphasis on player development? Do you think we got the infrastructure for that for the next head coach? I do. I think right now, if we were to go, for example, Fred Hoiberg, we didn't have the structure in place. I think that if we were to go a young coach, we have a roster that kind of fits more modern philosophies. If that head coach has that, we have a player development department. We have 2 veteran assistants that have been part of championship winning teams. I think that we have a better infrastructure. I'm not saying that that it's the perfect infrastructure, but I do think we have a better infrastructure if that came down to it. It's only making 2 subs per half in this at center. That was my biggest issue. I mean, hey, I feel you. I feel you. Chisholm, I'll say this: every modern offense is a branch off of the triangle. The Bulls do run a modified triangle offense. Every team in the NBA does. Every single team in the NBA runs a modified triangle offense. That's how ingrained the triangle is into the modern NBA. So, no, and running the traditional triangle, we've moved past that. No, you don't want to. You don't want to do that. Billy don't want to be a part of a rebuild. He didn't sign up for that, so this makes sense. I just didn't think it would happen given the relationship built. I listen, I agree with you, but at some point, and this is what you said, you have to sometimes put business before the relationship. And you got to do that. So the fella college that listen, if LA couldn't get him, the Bulls ain't gonna be willing to pay to get him. Hurley, Dan, listen, if the Bulls, I'll tell you this right now, and this is no jokes aside. If the Bulls get Dan Hurley as their next head coach, I'm gonna stand up on here and do a backflip. live on stream. I'm going to kick my desk to the side. I'm going to stand right here with my fat ass, and I'm going to do a backflip. If the Bulls get Dan Hurley, I'm going to do a backflip and twerk live on camera. No, I'm not. The twerking part, I ain't do it. But yeah, I'm just saying. Reality is the Bulls lineup and coaching staff will be there for 2024-25. Lonzo will bring back some swag at the point guard position off the bench. We don't even know if Lonzo's going to play. And I'm sorry, you can't bring that much swag with a cap of 12 to 15 minutes. So, no, Lonzo ain't walking through that door to save us. It don't matter who the op had out there. Billy would play Vooch 9 minutes, then drum 6, and the Vooch 9 minutes every half. Hey, that's crazy. That's crazy. Would you land it? Listen, back in my heyday, so this is 10 years ago. I'm 37 years old. But as late as me being 25, 26, I was able to hit a standing backflip easily. Now, with that said, I'm about 35 pounds heavier than what I was then. So there's a chance you may see a live death on air. There's a chance of that. But I tell you, it'd be worth it. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Need better coaching staff. We do have a great coaching staff now, Joseph. Do you realize the Bulls changed the coaching staff? We have 2 assistant head coaches in Dan Craig and Wes Unseld Jr. that have been key in developing championship teams and players on those championship teams. I think we got a really good assistant staff now. I feel really good about our assistant staff. Twerking is crazy, my God. Twerk for Hurley 2024. But all right, y'all. I love you guys, man. I just wanted to bring this news, man. I love you guys so much, man. You guys are so important to everything that we do here. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. We're about 80 subscribers away from getting to the 20K subscribers that we're trying to get to. 82 subscribers away. So hit that subscribe button. There's 480 of y'all watching. I know 80 of y'all got to not be subscribed. Hit that subscribe button, man. I love you guys so much for everything that you mean and you do to this channel. You are the most important part of this channel, hands down. I love you guys. Go Bulls. See red, y'all. Love you guys.